We are live now. Thank you so much for joining us for Optimistic Opportunities. I am Carl Johnson, and our guest today is Aubrey Williams. Or is it Aubrey Fox Williams? How do you like me to say your name?
Aubrey Williams.
Aubrey Williams, okay. And I know Aubrey through many years of working in the community and the Chapel Hill Carborough community with WCHL and Chapelboro. So I was also a media person at the time. And so it's so good to reconnect with you again today, Aubrey. So Aubrey is the general manager there. So we're not going to talk about work, but I just wanted to frame her and who she is and how connected she is into the community and how honored I am today for you to take this time out of your busy schedule and you're serving the community to be with us today and share some of your thoughts. So thank you, Aubrey. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Carl. It's really wonderful to be here with you, and I feel really honored as well that you thought of me to have as your guest. When I think about you and how we've sort of crossed paths for these many years that we've both worked in, the community and ad sales and the like, I often think of our mutual friend, Zena Craft, because I know that you all work together, and she always just loved you to pieces, always spoke so highly of you. And anyway, it was, I think, not too long ago that we sort of ran into each other at a chamber function and exchanged cards, and then you just called me up one day and you were just like, hey, I just had your card and I don't really know why I'm calling, but it just seemed like the right thing to do, and maybe we should go get coffee. And so we went over to Cafe Driatti, which is a favorite spot of both of ours, and we sat outside in light sprinkling rain, I think, a little bit, and we talked and talked and talked and talked like we had known each other for absolutely ever and ever and ever, even though I don't think we'd ever talked that much in our whole lives. But I think that was sort of the beginning of us forging a new friendship, and I think it's really cool, and I'm just grateful to be here. So
thank you so much, Aubrey, for that. I appreciate it. So I don't in any way want to ignore the challenges people are having now and how hard the times can be for some people, but being that positive person, putting my blinders on and just forging ahead no matter what, I just kept on thinking about, how can I make a difference during this time for people? How can I, be there for them? How can I serve the community in my role as I am now as a realtor? And, how can I make that difference? Because I'm still a people connector. I'm sort of that hub still, which is so fun. And it's just sort of trying to figure out, that vessel and how it flows now differently than it did before in the media world. But it feels so good to sort of get back to that connection, which is what we were talking about over coffee,
yeah.
of re-engaging in a new way in the community. And for me, it's just, I wanted to, first of all, not ignore how people are having hard times now and things are really challenging, but be that place where people could come Wednesdays at 1 o'clock and visit with us and hopefully have what we say make a difference for them. So be sure to tune in next Wednesday at 1 o'clock for Dana Lange. She is the community and events editor at Durham Magazine, and I met her when I started Durham Magazine for the Shannons. So, but anyway, so Aubrey, question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to start out with this one question. So how are you staying positive in this environment and looking for the silver lining in every cloud? And I'll explain what that means. I kind of start this in every one of these talks because people go, silver lining in every cloud. I was in a show and the line was, there's a silver cloud. And I was like, okay. I said it opposite. I said, there's a silver lining to every cloud. And I leaned forward and looked at the rest of the cast. They started laughing. And I looked at the audience. They started laughing. And I just kept that line where it's sort of the epitome of not just the cloud is silver, the lining is silver, where I am that like glass half full person. So now that I've explained all that ad nauseum, how are you staying positive during this time, Aubrey?
So this is a great question. I share with you a character trait that I am also an optimist and a glass half full kind of person, which I feel very grateful to be that kind of person, because I think that for folks like us, sometimes it's easier to get over humps. But for me, it's been difficult in many regards, just like it has been for other folks. The business has shifted and changed. We are advertiser supported, as you know. And with local businesses being impacted so severely, we've seen a hit to our revenue. So that's been hard. Also worrying about a staff of 20 people, making sure that they stay safe. I could go on and on, like many people could, about the difficulties that we have faced. But on the other hand, the way that I seek out the silver lining is that I really very methodically on a daily basis carve out time to just give thanks. And I know maybe it sounds cheesy, but I have now a time in the morning. It's a bit of a commute because my child, who is 6, he stays with my mom during the day because my husband and I both work in essential businesses, and therefore we've been working in our offices throughout the entire COVID situation. So my mother lives in Pittsburgh, and when I drive from her house to the radio station every morning, I just quiet the radio, which is challenging for me to do because I want to listen, because it's my job to listen. And so I just quiet the radio and I take time to just actually list out all the things that I'm grateful for. And I mean, everybody has their different things that they tap into spiritually or otherwise, and that's what I do. I think through my many blessings, and it can instantly turn any negative feeling that I have into a positive one, because I recognize that that I'm incredibly fortunate and very blessed, and that I have friends and family and good health and a job and many things that make my life very beautiful. And I just never want to take that for granted. So I would say that that is sort of my little method by which I embrace the silver linings, is just to actually take stock of them daily.
Right. And you're in a position where you have 20 people relying on you.
Yeah.
And your leadership as the general manager, and that, that's a responsibility.
Yes, it is a responsibility, and it's one that I embrace, and that, again, I'm very grateful for. I love my job. I feel incredibly lucky that I get to do what I get to do every day. I know that you share that with me, Carl, that you are very passionate about your work as well. And I think that that's why we don't mind getting up super early in the morning and starting our days and organizing our thoughts and getting everything together, because it's a labor of love. And so, yes, I think that, finding that internal fortitude so that I can help others in my day is super important, for sure. I guess I would be interested to know, Carl, how you find the silver lining. What is it for you? Do you have a system or a special thing that you do, or that makes it that way for you?
Yeah. So I'm always pardon the dog barking in the background, sorry. Sitting in my bed, trying to put my daughter and the dog upstairs. It's not working today. So the first thing I want to say is that, I really appreciate what you said about, taking the time to have gratitude about the many blessings that you have. And I think that's the core of it, is being conscious about taking care of oneself. Because if you're the type of person that likes to take care of people, if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others.
Yeah.
Or you might not do as good of a job.
Yeah.
So it's a very important process, I think. The older I've gotten, the more I've spent time thinking about what does it mean for me to take care of myself, as opposed to what does it mean for me just to blow the day out and do as much as I possibly can, which is like when you first met me. I was like, I was running around like doing as much as I possibly can. And now, a little older, I'm just still trying to be like smart about doing as much as I can, but it's like, at what level is that, and at what expense is that to
Yeah.
myself and others? So I look at that and say, okay, well, if I, go to bed at a certain time every day, and I wake up at a certain time every day, and I exercise every day, which I'm not doing, go outside, which I'm not doing also right now. But I do meditate every morning for 10 minutes. I've been doing that for, about 5 years now, when I stumbled upon the ashram. And that's the one thing I definitely do is I take care of my mind in meditation, so that should something erupt, I'm able to calm my mind down a lot easier now. I say, okay, well, get into that meditative space, as I've worked those muscles to be able to get back to a better place.
That's really great. I mean, I remember, I don't know when the first time I heard the phrase self-care, but now it's everywhere. Everybody says it. And I remember the first time I heard it, like I had no idea what it meant. I was so confused.
Right.
I laugh at that now because it's so prevalent, but somebody was like saying something about self-care. I was like, what do you mean? And
shampoo and moisturizer and soap? Is that what they're talking about?
And like obviously it has so much more depth than just that. And I'm also, aside from being like a glass half full kind of person, I'm also a Virgo, so I'm a very busy person. I've been accused of like never sitting down, and so for me, initially the idea of self-care felt very self-indulgent to me. And it took me a while, like years really probably, to understand what you just described, which is that if I don't take care of myself and my needs, then I'm not going to be an effective caregiver to the people who are relying on me, both in my work family and in my home family. And that, like, I've slowly been able to get more comfortable with that concept. I know this probably sounds really strange to say, or I don't know what it sounds like, but I have begun to really embrace the notion of self-care, to your point, and to realize that, like, it's not selfish to do that, that it's necessary to do that, and that it makes me, at the end of the day, a better mom, a better wife, a better boss, a better friend, a better daughter, if I can, like, be taking good care of myself and feeling good about myself, then I can be doing so much more for others. And it's a very simple concept, and I don't know why it took me so long to arrive at that, but it did.
You do your things that you're grateful for in your car on the way to work in the morning. What else do you do?
So I'm a morning person, so I get up very early, and I work out, and then I go for about a 45-minute walk in my neighborhood, and I listen to music, and I just kind of zone out. And that physicality for me, that that moving my body is such an integral part of me being like mentally better. Like just, I'm a better version of myself. I'm more patient. I sleep better. I go with the flow a little bit more. I worry less. When I don't do that physical activity, I become very restless, and I'm just not as patient or as well rested, and I have a propensity for worry, and I think that it helps to mitigate that. So that's another big one for me, to just be able to like move my body, and to do it outside is really nice. We've had a beautiful spring, so it's been really nice to be able to enjoy this gorgeous weather that we've had. And I don't know if it's just my imagination, but I wonder if like the people being less active outside driving, etc. I feel like the wildlife, I've seen so much more wildlife this spring. I actually saw a coyote over by our house. We live in Chapel Hill, which I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've never seen a coyote in Chapel Hill. But so yeah, I would say that being outside and staying active has been a big part of it for me too.
Great. Well, I always like to keep this, between 15 to 20 minutes. So we've got about 2 more minutes. So it's 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So are there any new goals that have come to your mind because of this reset?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I mentioned this to you before, but I love the fact that you are using the word reset. That to me just really encapsulates this sort of optimistic opportunity, that you have phrased it in such a way. I think a lot of people would see this as a setback. But for me, in terms of goals, what this has been a reset for me, in that I think I'm looking at much shorter increments of time as realistic goal setting. I was much more of a 1 year, 5 year kind of person. And now I'm really kind of in a 2 week space, both for, I mean, everything is in flux. So what are the kids going to be doing all summer long? Are camps going to be open? Are the advertisers going to be coming back on the air with us? What's happening in the world? It's changing so much from day to day and moment to moment, that looking at it in shorter increments of time feels much more realistic. It also is, I guess, really being just more present. And it plays into that worrying less piece that I was talking about. Like, we can make plans as much as we want to make plans, but when things are so uncertain, it doesn't really make that much sense to do so. And I guess it, in fact, probably has always been that way, but maybe I'm just now getting it.
Right.
So I guess that's what I would say for myself, in terms of goals, just shorter increments of time.
Mm-hmm. And I think the one thing you touched on, I don't exactly remember how you said it, and I'll say it in my own words, is that this time for me has provided me that pause of running around, where I understand you're still driving and going to work and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I'm only going out if it's truly essential for a client, because a lot of things I can do from home for clients.
Yeah.
And so it's provided me that pause where, my brain slowed down. So my thought patterns slowed down. So then I became more grounded, and I was thinking more things were coming to me.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thinking more clearly, but I don't think that really encapsulates it. I think it was just there was more space to be present with my thoughts.
Yes.
Is actually the most accurate way to say it.
Uh-huh.
Because we weren't just like hammering ourselves as the Americans of like doing, constantly going. You know, we have, you know, we got whack-a-mole.
Yeah, we
You
sure did.
know, so so that's when I sort of always sort of stick my head up out of the sand and go, what's going on? What does this mean? How can things be different? You know, this is something that is meaningful for some reason.
Yeah.
So what is it? So that, strangely enough, motivates me and excites me.
Yeah.
When there's something so big that happens, I'm kind of like, wow, what can I do differently now? How does this affect me? What are the changes? And I wasn't that way the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but I eventually finally got into that space. And I was like, oh, okay, great. Well, what does this all mean? So again, not trying to minimize, you know, how hard this is for some people, but that's just, I guess, how I deal with challenges in my life, because I've had lots of challenges in my life.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my default, is like, let me look at the positive side. Let me try to figure that out.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
And I mean, what I'm hearing you say is that you're very adaptive. Like you're just letting it kind of wash over you, and you're trying to listen to what your creative voice is telling you inside of how to adapt and shift and change, which I love. I think that's really a great way to sort of take it in, rather than just hammering, to your point, just going, hammering, just slowing, listening to what's happening and trying to adapt.
And I think that's such a great thing for us to pause on, because I love that message of thinking about how to be adaptive and what that means in your life.
I love
So
it.
what a great statement. Thank you, Aubrey. You're so amazing
Well,
all the way around.
Aw, Carl, I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And tune in next Wednesday at 1 o'clock for Dana Lange. She'll be joining us with Optimistic Opportunities. I feel like I should cue music now.
Do it.
I know, it's like I've got the studio lady here with me right now. I was like, oh, no pressure. But thank you so much for joining us again today, Aubrey, and have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.